And today, this afternoon, if you are here in the auditorium or hearing my voice, you still have a half hour until the polls close tonight if you want to vote tonight. And then we have early voting tomorrow, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. All the information is on the city website. Election Day is November 7th, and voting will happen here at the community center. So please make sure you get out to vote. Encourage your neighbors to vote. So next week, as I said, the election is on November 7th. There will be no council meeting on Wednesday, November 8th. On Thursday, November 9th, the City Council will meet to receive certified results of the election. And the agenda says 7:30, but we're trying to meet a little earlier that evening, so stay posted if you want to attend that. But that's November 9th. And then on Wednesday, November 15th, that will be the final meeting of the current City Council that was elected in 2015. It's an opportunity for folks to say a few words. And then we'll have the swearing in of the newly elected City Council, resolutions recognizing outgoing City Council members, and then that will be followed up by a reception. And City Council members will be there, new City Council members, as well as our new Youth Council will be there as well, and members of the public are invited. So that's November 15th. And then for the new City Council on Monday, November 20th, we will be having an administrative function session to do the new City Council's orientation. But there will be no meeting on Wednesday, November 22nd, before the Thanksgiving holiday. We'll now take public comments on voting items. We have 3 voting items this evening. The first is a resolution placing a covenant to protect the natural area known as Dorothy's Woods. Does anyone have any public comments on that? Okay, we'll get you the microphone, Mr. Loveless.
Hello, this is Pat Loveless, your official peace delegate. I want to tell you people out there that you've got 6 more days before election, for one thing. And another thing, too, is I would love to see you people preserve Dorothy's Woods, because we had a grove of trees like similar to that took up a couple of acres in our small town. But we had the saddest day about 50, 20 years ago and developed it. They put a cul-de-sac in there, and they put little cookie cutter houses up there and all that, and they tore almost all of the woods down. And I was so sad to hear that for several days. I was depressed. I wasn't living up there, but I saw a whole bunch of memories that I had trying to be destroyed by the backhoes and the earth movers and the tree killers. I wanted to see those woods survive enough to have other children grow up and have the same memories of tree forts and other stuff that we had when we were kids. Because even if you didn't have any friends, you could still go out and fight around in the woods, hunting up arrowheads or whatever, and still have fun. And if you had friends, you could go out there and work in the tree fort. And it was so wonderful. I wanted other kids to have that memory, so I got the chance to help preserve the memory for other kids now by preserving Dorothy's Woods. And please, will you do that? Don't let anyone cut one tree down on that. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Any other public comments on this voting item? The resolution placing a covenant to protect natural area known as Dorothy Woods. Our next voting item is a single reading ordinance awarding a contract for a compensation study. Any public comments on that? The final voting item this evening is a resolution providing for appointments to the Takoma Park Youth Council. Any public comments on that? All right, now we will open it up to general public comments.
Hi, Stephen Kern, Woodland Avenue, Ward 2. First, I'd just like to give a big thanks to Councilmember QURESHI and Councilmember SCHULTZ and Councilmember Mayle. I think all 3 of you, this is the end of your term, and you guys have shown great dedication and patience, and I have great appreciation for you, and I'm sure we all do, so thanks very much. My wife thought there should be a clap out like they have at Piney Branch, but
That'd be good.
not sure that's appropriate. I just thought I'd say something about history now that the crowds are gone from the junction, and just a brief word. So I guess I'm really speaking to a few of you now and to the incoming council. Because I think this was missing from all of the conversations last week. So this is from the master plan of 2000. I went back and did a little light reading. The intent of the master plan, Takoma Park, is to preserve the existing character and to reinforce the many desirable features of Takoma Park. The challenge is to preserve scale and historic character while addressing deficiencies and planning for change that is harmonious to the community. Note the words scale, historic from 17 years ago. There was a recommendation to integrate new development within the historic district with compatible design, massing, and material. 17 years ago. Apply Montgomery County Historic Preservation Commission review to ensure consistency with the historic context of the area. Support maintenance of the low-scale, small-town historic character of the area. The max height at property in the C1 zone is 30 feet. The summary of that from 2000 was, the vision for Takoma Junction is of a village center with traditional small-town charm. That item was picked up 12 years later in the Junction Task Force report, that exact sentiment. It's italicized. So I'll read it again. The vision for Takoma Junction is village center with traditional small-town charm. The Task Force report 2012 went on to say, Takoma Junction is a small commercial district in the heart of a residential community with historically significant resources that should serve, among other things, and they give recommendations about size. In 2015, the RFP said the property was acquired by the city for the purpose of stabilizing the small but important historic neighborhood commercial district. Design features should be contextually appropriate. Takoma Park is historically significant as an early railroad suburb and streetcar community, and required was a narrative highlighting the key components of the project, including how the project addresses its historic neighborhood context.
Thank you, Mr.
So I would just say to the future council, let's remember that word historic, because I didn't hear it at all last week, and it wasn't in the resolution. And I think all the information we've ever needed is in those documents.
Thank
you
you,
very much.
Mr. Kern. Any other public comments this evening? Go ahead, Mr. Lovelace.
Hello, this is Pat Lovelace again, your official peace delegate. I want to remind you people out there, there's only 6 more days before the polls close permanently on the 7th. I want to remind people that we have a chance to make our city great. I don't mean that the way Trump says making the country great, because that's not my idea of greatness. I think we have a people's way of making the city great. So please, I want to tell you people, it's less than a week. 6 more days. I remember telling you people not so long ago it was 49 more days and 53 more days. I remember those days. Went by pretty quick now, didn't it? Please don't let the 6 days go by so quick that you don't vote. Also, I want to tell you people that November 4th is an important day in Takoma Park's history. Joyce Siemens' birthday is on November 4th. That's Terry Siemens' wife. I want people to remember to say happy birthday to her every time they see her on the 4th. Thank you very much. And also, we had a great demonstration yesterday on the HUDs threatening to take the leases away from anyone who uses marijuana in their own apartment, because people sometimes use it for medical use, and there's been no known cases of overdose from tetrahydrocannabinol, the active ingredient THC. I want people to realize that it would probably cut down the opioid epidemic if we're allowed to use our grass. So people, I want to tell HUD to stay off the grass. I also want to ask people to help support us when we have demonstrations of this magnitude. I was on Channel 4 most of yesterday afternoon, getting the story out. and they said it was really wonderful. We had a couple of hundred people down there, they said. And I think it would be great if we had a few thousand out there, because people, we do need medical marijuana. I'm going to be needing it when they cut my pain medicine off. Otherwise, I'll be curled up in a fetal position in horrible pain. I was caught without my pain medicine once, and I used medical marijuana. It does work. Please take the truth. It does work. And it doesn't make you falling flat on your face like the opioids do. I'd love to be able to switch over. But they say the federal government does not allow it, and HUD is federal property, and they're going to try to be cruel as they can by doing that. Don't let them kick an elderly person out on the street. Don't let them do it. Don't let them put an 80-year-old grandmother out because she's smoking medical marijuana to kill the pain. Thank you very much. Come out with us when we need you. This is the peace delegate saying, get out there and vote. Love it, love it, love it.
Thank you, Mr. Loveless. Any other public comments this evening?
Good evening, Paul Hubner, 7405 Carroll. First, I'd like to address a serious misconception about Takoma Park residents' opposition to the current direction of the Junction development. This misconception, promulgated by those supporting the developer, including some members of the council, is that those of us supporting the co-op and the recommendations of the Junction Task Force are opposed to economic development at the Junction. This is not correct. Takoma Park Council members and city residents should remember that most residents wholeheartedly endorse development at the Junction based on resolution number 2015-19. I personally have followed and supported development at the Junction and attended JARRETT since the early 1990s. However, the proposals submitted and codified by the council in the development agreement have evolved dramatically and digress from almost all of the council agreed upon criteria: low density, public space, aesthetically consistent, and including co-op expansion and inclusion throughout the build and the lease agreement. All the public consternation and resistance has been created by a runaway developer who is ignorant or neglectful of their legally required agreements with the city. I commend the council for finally standing up for the residents, and I seek further that you follow the recommendations of Councilman Mail to require known dimensions and locations for the lay-by that NDC is proposing for the larger food co-op delivery vehicles. There should also be clarity on deliveries and trash removals from the garage. For the record, I would challenge anyone here to identify any garage in the area that has over a 7-foot head clearance. With a garage clearance of 7 feet, at best, a van could drive in and out, certainly not a box truck or a trash compacting vehicle. With respect to all aspects of this development, it is imperative that there be detailed communications between city staff, the developer, and the residents. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Love it.
Hi. I could save this for November 15th, but I feel like there will be a lot of people saying things along these lines, so I thought I'd just talk tonight. I don't speak a lot at these city council meetings, but I like to try to come to every single one that I can.
Great.
And it has been an amazing experience this last half year or so, almost a year now, God, that I've been trying to come to these meetings. And I want to just thank this council that has helped me realize how interesting local government is, because I didn't know coming into this if I would enjoy this or not. And now, like, my mom and I agreed to just try it out, and now I'm here coming without my mom a lot of times because she's off doing PTA things. And it just, I wanted to participate more, and I'm voting for the first time next week, and this council has given me the wonderful opportunity of being on the youth council, and it's just it means so much to me. Going into my adult life, I know I'll have the foundation to really understand how government works on the most local of levels, a small municipality that has a strong community backing it. And I haven't been able to stay these past couple weeks for the whole till like 2 a.m. or whatever, but it makes me happy. I'm kind of in the middle on the Takoma Junction stuff, but it just makes me happy that there's so much turnout in a lot of ways because there's so many people who care. And so I'd just like to thank all of you again for helping make this city what it is and for helping me personally understand how much I love this city and how I love city government in general. So thank you.
Thank you. Althea, sorry, could you come back and say your name so we have it for the record?
I'm Althea Davey, Ward 1.
Thank you.
Love it, love it, love it.
Great. Any other public comments this evening?
Thank you, everybody, for coming here on this drizzly, cold evening. I'm Mary Jane Machui, Ward 2, 404 Boyd Avenue. Please, my theme tonight is live simply so others can simply live. There's people like me who are lower income, who can't afford the taxes. There are some stipulations to help you, but they're very complicated. And I try to help a couple of my neighbors with them. And it's not that easy. And you don't, there's no one, there's someone's been passing word that you can, if you're a senior, you don't have to pay property taxes. That's a bunch of BS, and I told her that. That's not true, guys, sorry. But no, the only way you can avoid paying any property taxes is to Takoma Park. If everyone in your household makes less than $8,000 a year, and who can live on $8,000 a year? Okay, come on. So in essence, there's no free pass when property taxes. But we keep wanting, people keep voting to buy things that cost more and more taxes, and I simply can't afford them, and I'm trying to save money for my son who can't afford to live by himself. And that's another thing, I'm speaking for myself. My son was born here 32 years ago. He's mixed race, his father's from Kenya. He has everything you're looking for, an immigrant, he's son of an immigrant and all this jazz. But yet, why should he have to take work all the way in Bethesda at a job where he doesn't know to 3 days ahead of time what his schedule is? Why can't he work at a job where he's not making enough to live on by himself? Why can't he get a job somewhere in Takoma Park if this place is so great? Why can't someone give him a job where he knows his schedule? I used to complain when I worked 8 to 4:30. Believe me, when I see what he goes through, no way, I had it easy. So anyways, thank you, everybody.
Any other public comments this evening? No other public comments? All right. I skipped something. I forgot. I had something for the record. A mayoral proclamation for Small Business Saturday is on November 25th in 2017. Excuse me. So that is Small Business Saturday in Takoma Park, and we encourage all residents to support local businesses by buying local on November 25th and throughout the year. All right. Now we'll turn it over to council comments. Some of my colleagues have comments this evening. Councilmember QURESHI.
Thanks, Mayor. I said I was going to be brief because we'll have an opportunity to say our farewells. Councilmember Malin Schultz, so we don't have to be long-winded because tonight is Game 7 of the World Series. That's one thing I'm not going to miss about being on council is missing baseball and football games. But I just want to say one thing. There's a lot of people who come to these meetings on a regular basis, and they include Pat Loveless, Mary Jane Machui, Arthur David Olson, Paul Hubner, and Althea. And I just want to say that one of the greatest pleasures of sitting up here is to have people like you who are so engaged in your community that you come here. I think, Mary Jane, I've heard about your son and your ex-husband 1,000 times. But what it does is it reinforces in my mind the issues that are important to you, which are your son with the special needs and the increased gentrification and unaffordable housing in Takoma Park. And whether I'm sitting up here or sitting down there, because of your advocacy and Pat's advocacy of love it, love it, love it, and love And Paul's advocacy of just telling me that we spend too much money in the city, it has always refocused my attention, and I hope you know that I appreciate all of you, and you make the job a lot easier. And Althea, it was my pleasure supporting you to be on this youth council, and I think your mom has a lot to be proud of because you're a great, wonderful young lady. That's all I have. Thanks.
Councilmember Mail.
Thanks. My team is no longer in the World Series, so I don't have anything to go home to tonight. No, I'll be brief as well. I wanted to just raise 3 issues that are on my list of regrets of things not to get to. First is the tree code. We still have people who, spend their nights in their basement when there's storms, and we need to do something to deal with the real fear of climate change-induced severe weather and our tree canopy, and find a way to balance those issues along with renewable power. I have the advantage of living someplace where I can have solar panels in my house, but many people do not, and we could make some changes in our tree policy that keep Takoma Park green, but also allow it to be green in other ways and safe in other ways. A second one is our nuclear-free zone policy. And while supporting nuclear-free, we could also be better about having standards around fair wages, around fair trade, around sustainability practices that would be far more comprehensive and I think effective in affecting city purchasing policy. So that's a second one, and really need resident help with that. And the third, and I'll hand out to my colleagues a copy of this, and I've given it to the mayor already, is the issue of co-policing with Montgomery County. So Rockville and Gaithersburg both have a higher crime rate than Takoma Park does, but not significantly so. Both forego tax duplication payments, but what they get is the county covering a portion of their police duties, such that Rockville, a city of 50 or 60,000 people, has close to the same police budget as Takoma Park does, because the county is picking up a portion of that. I don't think it's an easy answer. It's a complicated process, but I think we should create a task force to look at the differences between Takoma Park, Rockville, and Gaithersburg, to talk to the county, to talk to county officials, and figure out if we can't think about ways to do policing together with the county as a way to save revenue but still deliver very effective policing services. So I'll stop with that. Thank you.
Councilmember Siemens.
Thank you, Mayor. Over the past few weeks, I've talked about a program that I'm helping some people put together to address homeless Takoma Park residents. And we've made a lot of progress. I've mentioned the fact that we have rented a house, and we've actually, our first client has moved in, and I want to thank God for that. But we've had more progress this week with donations from the community of air conditioning unit, some dining room furniture, bedroom furniture. But we continue to seek furnishings for the house, and appreciate anybody contacting me if you have any suggestions. We've also had people asking, well, gee, how are you funding this thing? Right now, we haven't sought any grants, and it is being funded right now by donations from the people who are working on the project. They've made commitments to support this, and some of those have been kind of ongoing agreements to provide so much per month. But we've also started to receive some cash donations from the community, and I appreciate that support that the community is giving. There are 2 things that we're still seeking. One is volunteers. There's a lot of talent in this city, in the residents of this city, and we're still in the planning phase. Even though we've tried to, we've obviously done a whole lot in implementing the ideas. We're in a way getting the cart before the horse, because we still have a lot of planning to do on how we can not just provide some place for people to live, but also provide the services that people need to become self-sufficient. Some of that is psychological assistance, some of it's skills development. And so one of the things that we're looking for is additional volunteers from the community to help with this planning process. And so if anyone's interested, we're having a meeting tomorrow at 7 o'clock at Frontline Community Services at 7112 Willow Avenue. That's behind the Bank of America that's located on Carroll Avenue in Old Takoma. The second thing we're looking for is kind of tips to help us better understand the problem and maybe identify some of the people who live in the community but need the assistance to find housing and develop the skills and necessary to become self-sufficient. So if you have any information in that regard, again, you can contact me. My cell number is 240-793-5108. And, of course, my contact information is on the city website. Thank you.
Councilmember Smith.
First, I'd like to thank Victory Housing and Habitat America for hosting the open house renovation of their community room last week. About 30 residents, including kids, came out. It was a great event. John Spencer, I shared emails with him to discuss having the ACE Academy at the building. So hopefully Habitat America will follow up with that, and we will have another ACE Academy location in the city real soon. On the same night, last Thursday, I attended the Lights On ACE Academy event to celebrate after-school programs. This is a national event. It was fantastic. Kids came from Park Montgomery and Essex House. The room was packed. I would like to give a special thank you to April Kaplan, the Executive Director of Montgomery County Collaboration Council, and her colleague Lynn Sobolov, Kathy Stroop, Lee Gaines, Denise Jones, and Busy Graham, and many other people that helped coordinate it. There was a proclamation from the governor. The governor is using a nonprofit to provide resources for after-school and summer programming. I took that individual and connected him with Jacquette Frazier, the Executive Director of Lunch and Learn, so hopefully we can get some more money for Lunch and Learn this coming year. And finally, I would like to thank the Essex House Tenant Association for holding a candy giveaway for Halloween yesterday. Had a great time. A lot of kids and some adults came out. Thank you.
Councilmember Schultz.
Couple things. I want to remind people of something that's on some of your calendars, but not everybody's calendar perhaps, is that on November 2nd, here in the Azalea Room, there will be in the evening a youth voter forum with the candidates. I don't know, I'm sure all candidates are invited, but that's at 6:30, and obviously this is an opportunity for young people like Althea and so many others who have gotten keenly involved in awareness of our local government and the processes, that this is a really neat opportunity to even get more connected to what candidates are saying and understand that there's a lot of differences of opinion, which is one of the things that makes politics politics. So to invite people to come to that, young people to come to that forum. Another thing I want to mention that the Crossroads Development Authority is sponsoring another New Hampshire Avenue cleanup. It starts at 8:30 in the morning and takes about an hour and a half. They provide all the equipment you need to do this, and then the thing ends up at the up around University Parkway at the Starbucks, where everybody can enjoy some refreshments. So that's this Saturday. I guess that's what, the 11th? No, not the 11th. Whatever the Saturday is, that's when it is. Okay. The other couple things on the calendar are a pair of open houses. And I know this was on your list of things to talk about, but I just want to comment. We heard a couple weeks ago from the consultants who prepared a draft housing and economic development strategic plan. And that was presented formally to us, but it's a draft. As part of the process, 2 open houses have been scheduled. One is November 7th. That will be here in this building. Now, that also happens to be the same time as the election day. So the open house will be on the 3rd floor of the community center, which should be an interesting place to talk about the future of housing issues and economic development issues. Then this will be repeated again on Monday, November 13th at the Crossroads Development Authority's offices on New Hampshire Avenue at from 6 o'clock to 8 o'clock. And both of these are run from 6 to 8 o'clock. Their offices are at the 7676 New Hampshire Avenue, the professional building on the 3rd floor. So the reason I'm taking the trouble to bring this to people's attention is that the housing and economic development strategic plan is not the most dramatic or exciting thing that we've had a chance to talk about up here from this dais over the months, but that would belie its importance because this study was commissioned by the city council, because we wanted some professional, outside, independent guidance on the issues of economic development and on housing accessibility, to be able to help us literally help us set policy. When I say us, I mean the city council and, of course, future city councils, and to obtain their direction with regard to recommendations in both of these areas. Both of them are vitally important to the future of our city for different reasons, but I won't go into that now because I don't have enough time. But just this is important because it's going to lay the foundation, this study, for policy making, and the consultants have laid out a huge array of recommendations in both of these areas on things that they think we ought to take under serious consideration. And I want residents to be part of that discussion, to make themselves as knowledgeable as they possibly can in both of these subject areas, so that we can really get down to brass tacks and talk about practical things that the city can plan on doing, converting strategies into implementation actions in the coming months and years. So take these open houses seriously. There's a ton of information on our city's website, in the project directory. Just look for the Housing and Planning Economic Development Study, and all the reports are there, the recommendations, and you can begin to really soak yourself in all of this stuff so that you can be knowledgeable and helpful to the City Council as it goes forward in the future on these things. So thank you very much, and that's what I want to say for tonight.
Okay. Councilmember Kovar.
Thank you, Mayor. Two quick things. One, I think the city manager will be talking about this, but I'm still a little bit unclear about how the paving and the parking lot will work in terms of the impact on the elections, and I understand that it's hard to map that out entirely, but maybe you could just shed a bit of a light on that. And secondly, Councilmember Schultz just mentioned the public information sessions on the strategic plan, which I agree will be very important, and I think maybe the city manager was going to talk about that too. I've heard from some people who are interested in attending, but because it coincides with end of the day an election, they're either covering the election polls for candidates or who want to watch the counting or whatever it might be, aren't sure they can make it. So I would suggest maybe we can fit in a third public session at some point to so that we don't have that conflict. Thanks.
Great. I just have a couple of announcements. One on Joyce Seaman's Day on Saturday, November 4th. The Boy Scouts will be having their annual pancake supper at the Presbyterian Church, so I encourage everyone to come and enjoy that. On Friday, Councilmember Kovar, myself, and members of the city staff finally had the quarterly meeting with state highway staff that we were promised more than a quarter ago to have. It was actually a very good meeting. There were 4 representatives from state highway there. We went over about a dozen projects, big ones and small ones, and I think made some headway on a number of them, finding out the correct people to contact. I think the most productive thing is that I think we may have a way forward now on replacing sidewalks that are along state highways, and that looks very promising. So we'll be following up on that, and we will be having these meetings more regularly. So keep our fingers crossed that that is going in a good direction. And I just want to thank Mr. Kern for his comments tonight, and to acknowledge, you're right, we did not talk about or use the word historic or the historic significance of the location of the junction when we discussed it last week. So thank you for pointing that out this evening. All right, I think with that, I'll turn it over to the city manager.
Thank you very much. Go through a number of items, following up from Councilmember Seaman's mention last week that the crosswalk lights weren't working, that are the pilot project in front of this building and at Grant. There is a part that's on order for them, and I think we're learning that, it is a pilot project and they're seeing what works and what doesn't. So we're glad to be the experimentee, but it does mean sometimes the lights don't work. I had a lot of discussion about campaign signs over the last week, and I do want people to know that the advice that I've given out in the past, which is if you're putting out campaign signs, make sure that it is on private property with the permission of the owner and looks like it, is the easiest way to go forward. I do have a link in my city manager comments, which will be on the website, to a map that Montgomery County uses that shows pretty closely where the right-of-way line is, property lines are, over a geographic map, and you can look up your house and see kind of what the distance is from your property line to the curb. That would give a sense about what's the right-of-way and the area that you shouldn't put a sign. But the other thing I do want to mention is that when our staff does sometimes collect signs that are in the right-of-way, they are brought here. We will be putting a courtesy notice if it's in front of a house or a business so that they don't think the signs were stolen, but know that it's someplace, and then those signs can be picked up here at the city building and they'll be held for people. Having said that, I should also let people know that for the next few days, while we're undergoing the early voting, signs will be allowed on this property at the community center through November 7th, Election Day. They'll also be permitted on the properties at Washington Adventist University and at the rec center on the times when they will be doing the early voting. So I don't need calls about that. Those are permitted. As Councilmember Kovar mentioned, there are going to be a number of traffic and parking disruptions around this building and on Cedar Avenue as some asphalt work is done. We're working really hard to minimize disruptions during any kind of voting times, and so we're just going to be out with the contractors and talking to the contractors the whole time, and make sure that people are able to get to vote. But through the next 2 weeks, between asphalt work and putting HVAC units on top of this building, there will be a lot of activity that disrupts this back parking lot. and particularly for Cedar Avenue, we'll keep in touch with you as on a day-to-day basis. The CAFR is complete, the Comprehensive Annual Financial Report, which is a big effort between the city's finance director, myself, and the auditors, was completed and submitted to the state as it is supposed to be sent each October 31st. It will be on the city's website in a few days, and it will be the topic of the fun presentation to the next council on November 29th when we go over the audit and the pension plans. We had a couple mentions of the strategic plan open house. I really do want people to share their thoughts, and I'll try to make sure that there's a variety of ways that people can share their thoughts. It's certainly not going to be kept to just these 2 open houses or a third one if we decide that seems to be needed. There's going to be a lot of interactive discussions, I think, with council as we go through this and we look more closely at implementation list and what does all that mean. I really do want to have people let us know, are we doing the right thing with this, with the recommendations here? Are there things that need to be added? Are there some modifications they'd like the council to consider? Because as Councilmember Schultz mentioned, it may not sound really exciting. It will guide a lot of work over the next few years, and it is to make a major change for the city. So we want it to be the right thing. Let's see. I want to also mention I got notice that there's the resident survey for Montgomery County is out. And they haven't done one since 2009. Anybody can go online to do it. I did it this afternoon. If you're a Montgomery County resident. I remember the last time that they did a survey, and we were better. So I want people to definitely do both. We'll be doing a resident survey in a few months. Do Montgomery Counties now, and we'll be able to see how we're doing. It's an important way to show where improvements are needed and where things are done correctly. So I do have a link on my city manager notes, and it's being put out by Montgomery County. We've got an interesting humanities lecture, the Angie Zapata story, Transgender Life in America Law, and that will be tomorrow at 7:30 in the auditorium. Lots of stuff happening tomorrow, so including a question and answer session with the person, Liz Seaton, who will be doing this lecture. We have a new arts coordinator, Brendan Smith, who's an accomplished artist. Met him today, so glad he's joined the team. I do want to give kudos to the staff from the Recreation and Police Departments for a really fun Monster Bash. Of course, they ordered the day. It was gorgeous weather. The Junior Explorers helped the various crossing guards and police officers stationed at each of the various points. They did a great job. It was a nice thing to see them out there doing that. And the recreation staff gave out 860 treat bags, which was not enough for the group. I know I didn't get one, and that's okay. I have enough Halloween candy. But it was well attended, and the costumes were wonderful. I have hiring updates on a number of items. We are currently reviewing the application materials for the top 14 candidates for the police chief position right now. So that's moving along, and we'll give updates on some next steps, which I'm not really sure about. We're actually going to have a conference call in the next couple days to go through kind of what the next steps are and share that with you. That's all I have.
Great. All right. Any questions for the city manager? All right. Now we'll move on to our voting session. We have 3 items tonight. The first is a resolution placing a covenant to protect the natural area known as Dorothy's Woods. We have our city attorney with us if we have any questions on this. We did have a work session on this, and I think the item looks pretty much the same as it did when we did the work session.
Yes.
Any questions before I ask someone to move it? No. Would someone like to move the resolution? Councilmember Mail moves. Councilmember Smith second. Any other questions or comments?
I'd just like to clarify that by doing this, this means that no portion of this land may be developed. When this this property was purchased, and in the resolution that the council adopted, it did identify that there was a possibility that some portion may be able to be developed. That will not be the case with this covenant. And so I don't think there's an issue with it, but I did want to make that clear.
Great. Thank you very much. Any comments or questions? All right. Councilmember Mail?
Yeah, I just wanted to thank the city attorney for your work and your firm's work on the documents so far in front of us, including the covenant, which I haven't had extensive time to look at. You indicated last time that it would take a relatively short time to get this in place. Per the city manager's comments, the way it could go away is if a future council decided to terminate the covenant.
No.
That's not possible. Okay.
No, not once it's recorded.
So if it's an easement can be extinguished by the owner of the easement, but a covenant cannot.
It's not the same.
Not a conservation easement.
And not a conservation easement either.
Okay.
Yeah. Now this is essentially a permanent action.
Exciting. I just took my dog there and my child there this morning, so looking forward to it.
You have to assume that this will last forever.
Okay, thanks.
It's a long time.
All right. All those in favor of the resolution, please say aye. Aye. Any opposed? No. Resolution passes. Thank you to the city attorney for sticking around tonight. Next, we have a single reading ordinance awarding a contract for a compensation study, and I'm going to turn it over to our city manager to give us some more background on this.
Hi, thank you. Every 3 years, the city does a compensation survey. It's part of our commitment with our 2 collective bargaining units, and it's good practice in any event, where we identify what are the average wages for a variety of positions and make sure that our position pay ranges are appropriate for the work that's being done and for this region, so that we are able to attract good candidates and keep good employees. We went out for a request for proposal, received 8 proposals from 8 different companies. We went through a process of identifying kind of what were the assets of those that were affordable. There were several that were very high and didn't add a lot more to the proposal. Of the 8 proposals received, we are recommending Management Advisory Group International as a firm to be most suited for us. Its proposal amount was $34,750. We had identified, I believe, $50,000 in the budget for this project. It's not the lowest of the prices, but it's very close to the lowest. It does offer a lot of advantages. It has a lot of online and services as part of the process. One of the things that happens is that we ask people to say kind of what are the components of their job. It's much better to fill it out online rather than write it on paper and have to process the paper. So this is handled in an online manner. They also had a number of extra products that come with this package that allow us to work with it in the coming years to analyze new positions and that kind of thing. So we think this is the best of the options of the 8 firms, and we ask your approval for this. I would like to apologize that this didn't have a work session, real discussion beforehand. We were kind of on a short time frame, but we do want to be able to get the compensation study going in time for budgeting purposes, and having to wait till November 29th for the next real voting session, it was just a little awkward for us.
Thank you for that background. Anybody have any other comments before I ask for this to be moved?
Just a question.
Councilmember Schultz?
How long do you anticipate the work will take for this consultant to complete?
You know, they usually only take a couple months, and it goes usually pretty fast.
Okay.
Councilmember Mayo?
And I'm sorry, this company is a different one than we've used in the past?
Yes, we've used a number of different ones in the past.
Okay, thank you.
Great. Who would like to move the ordinance? Councilmember QURESHI. Councilmember Schultz, second. It's a single reading ordinance. I'll ask the clerk to take the roll.
Mayor Stewart?
Yes.
Councilmember Kovar? Councilmember Mayo?
Aye.
Councilmember Qureshi?
Aye.
Councilmember Siemens?
Aye.
Councilmember Smith? Councilmember Schultz?
Aye.
Great. Next is our final voting item tonight. It's a resolution providing for appointments to the Takoma Park Youth Council. I would just like to read the names of the 9 young people who have been selected and will be appointed to the Youth Council. And I apologize ahead of time if I mispronounce the name. George Ashford in Ward 2, Althea Davey, Ward 1, Rachel Group in Ward 3, Adelaide Harris, Ward 2, Asha Henry, Ward 6, Ada Kante, Ward 4, Emma Morgenstein, Ward 1, Kieran Kochar McCabe, Ward 6, and Erica Rijos, Ward 5. They will make up our 9 members of our Youth Council. And would someone like to, we have lots of comments. Would someone like to move this first, and then we'll take comments?
I'll move it.
Councilmember Siemens move. Councilmember Mail second. I have Councilmember Siemens. You're first up for comments.
No, I didn't.
You don't have comments. All right.
But I think it's great.
Thank you. Then I have Councilmember Schultz.
Going back to, I guess, 3 years ago when we amended our charter to allow 16 and 17-year-olds to vote, I was saying then that I thought, in addition to reducing the voting age for all the reasons that were advocated for it, that we really needed to try to do a bit more than that. And that one of the things that I had suggested then was that some kind of a committee made up of young people, and not about young people, but of young people, would be really a great step forward to help give more substance and meaning to the age 16 and 17-year-old voting privileges. And so this has come to pass, not necessarily thanks to me, but thanks to Kate and several other people here on the council, as well as the gentleman at the school,
Mr. Gehring.
Mr. Gehring, who also advanced this thing in a very, very helpful way. I'll let others comment in that regard, but I just think this is a really great thing, and I'm so pleased to be able to be part of the inauguration of this council.
Great, thank you. Councilmember Mail.
Yeah, thank you. I, too, am super excited about the creation of the Youth Council. I wanted to say that I think that one of the most important things for the Youth Council to do first is to get ready to go to the National League of Cities meeting that is held in D.C., the capital cities conference that they have every year in Washington, D.C., brings youth councils from all around the country to your back door. And that's a fantastic way for the Youth Council to get a quick, fast step up in terms of the things that youth councils do. There's training in those meetings. There's issue advocacy, and some of the youth council members stand up and give speeches in front of 2,000 municipal officials at the beginning of the meeting, which would have terrified me as a 16 or 17-year-old or third grader. So we had some applicants. But it's fantastic to see the students that are part of those youth councils. So I think that's one of the things I wanted to emphasize and make sure the city is able to help support the youth council in participating in that meeting, and that they're sort of ready to go and connected to the kinds of what I'm assuming are deliberative efforts that are already going on among those youth councils to plan their meeting. The second is that I really hope that we, as with other city committees, that we give specific tasks to the youth council. Many of our committees struggle to find purpose, maybe after their first year or their first couple of years. And I don't expect that to be any different than it would be for the youth council than for any other committee. And so thinking about what it is that we want the council to do, what we want them to come back to the council with, in what sort of time span, what kind of deadlines. I think that's just as important as letting them figure out on their own issues that are a priority. And so I hope that the next council spends some time coming up with ideas and giving some tasks and some areas of interest to the youth council so they can come back to the council and make recommendations, and that therefore the new council will feel obligated to act on some of those recommendations. I also just wanted to say, Councilmember Schultz noted this, that this is one of many things that we've done for youth in the last 6 years that I think is just fantastic. Councilmember Smith mentioned Essex House and the Lunch and Learn program in the summer. We have youth voting now. 16 and 17-year-olds can vote, registering day of elections if needed, which is what my daughter will end up doing, hopefully tomorrow. We have an advocate now in Rockville being where our school budgets and capital improvement budgets are set, and that advocate in Rockville creates much more expanded capacity for the city to advocate on behalf of not just the schools that are physically within Takoma Park, but schools like Blair High School or Rolling Terrace that are that serve our students, serve our youth, but are outside the city, and many other engagements from things that the police have done, the police department has done, to outreach that the city manager and deputy city manager have carried out, have initiated to bring youth into the city. So it's exciting to make this step, and look forward to more in the future.
Great. Councilmember Qureshi.
Thanks, Mayor. I'm really excited about this, and I think last night when I was trick-or-treating with my kids was a perfect example as I was walking down arguably one of the best streets in Takoma Park for Halloween, which is Sycamore. I happened to run into a mother-daughter combo who were thanking me for my service after they recognized me under my wig. And they said to me they appreciate the advocacy on Takoma Junction, but mother and daughter disagreed on Takoma Junction. And I won't tell you which way they disagreed. It was actually surprising to me. But I think it's going to give a voice to youth in our community to advocate for positions that we rarely hear about. There's diverging positions in households. There's diverging positions in my household. And I think having that opportunity will be exciting. As somebody who's retiring from council to help you all get off the ground with the inner workings of city government, I'm happy to help. Although I can't be there Wednesday nights until 2 a.m. or my wife will kill me. But the last thing I will say is I think this is a real reflection of this council. We talked a lot about inclusivity and engaging more people in our community. We started off with this council with our first official act, fighting back intolerance on the Syrian refugee ban in the state of Maryland, and we're ending it with engaging more people in our community, which include the youth. And in between of these bookends, we have multiple meetings outside of this particular community center at the New Hampshire Avenue Recreation Center. I think that this council, if you're going to take anything from it, is that we've gone above and beyond to try to engage every segment of our community, and I hope that the new council will carry that on and be even more effective than we were in that regard. Thanks.
Great. Councilmember Kovar.
Thank you, Mayor. And I do want to associate myself with several of the other remarks that were just made, including that of Councilmember Qureshi. I think this is a great example of how we've tried in a number of ways to reach other communities within the city who haven't necessarily seen the pathway for participation in municipal affairs or engagement in some of the work that we do. And I would include in that also the racial equity provision that we adopted earlier. And I think the version of the youth council that we adopted and the way it's going to work benefit greatly also from the input from several people on the outside who aren't part of this council. And I'm just going to mention two. There are plenty of others who are involved, but Wayne Sherwood, who I know very well, who's the Ward 1 resident, and Tony Hines, who's a younger gentleman originally from Takoma Park and now I think lives just outside the borders. But both of them provide a lot of, I think, valuable assistance to us when we were formulating some of the work that went into the creation of this. So I just want to thank them publicly as well. Thanks.
Councilmember Smith.
When I was elected in 2012, I think it was in 2013, I had the honor of addressing the J. Bourne Law Society when Judge Holly Reed was president. And out of that meeting, we talked about how do we engage young people. And one idea was to create like a internship program, something similar that the city of Baltimore does, but we could not figure out if Jay Bourne was going to manage the young people or the city of Takoma Park was going to manage the people and how we were going to pay for it. So I'm delighted that we have a youth council now. I saw this first time I attended the National League of Cities conference in D.C. I had the privilege of seeing a group of young people when I attended their national conference in Pittsburgh last year. The people were really impressive. And I think it's really good that our city is finally doing something like this. It gives people, young people, a unique opportunity to see what municipal government's like and how they can actually impact their community. Thank you.
Great, thank you. I'd like to say a couple of words. One, I'm very excited that we're starting this. And I would like to say that there were a number of young people, particularly from Ward 2. Ward 2 really came out strong and put in wanting to be on the youth council. I would encourage these young people and others who did not have a chance to apply, that you can also think about applying to other committees in the city. We did have a high school student last year on our Safe Roadways Committee, and there are a number of other city committees. So don't just feel like you need to just be on the youth council. We have other committees, and we hope that young people will continue to engage even with these 9 young people moving forward. Also, we are still looking for an adult advisor for the Youth Council. Mr. Gehring has agreed to help get us up and running and started, but Mr. Gehring has a lot on his plate, and while we very much appreciate him taking this on, we do want to find a more permanent adult advisor. So if you're interested, the application is up on the city website. Please check it out, and if you have any questions, please contact one of us. And don't forget that next week we are inviting all of the Youth Council members to come, or not November 15th, sorry, not next week, November 15th, when we swear in the new council. We're asking all the Youth Council members to also come that night so we can recognize them and they can take part in our reception. So I think that is all. And we still have to vote on this, right? Yes. All right. We moved it and we seconded it, and all those in favor of appointing members to the Takoma Park Youth Council, please say aye.
Aye. Aye.
Any opposed? That's it, and that is it for our business this evening. Have a good night.
Love it.
Nice work.